Good morning. Welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, April the 2nd, 2019. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Seeing no declarations of interest, I will move to community announcements. Councillor Roy-DiClemente, could I start with you, please?
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a brief one. The Run for Southlake is coming up on Sunday, April 28th. Team EG is registered. We're looking for team members, and if you can't join us on that Sunday morning for a fun 5K run or walk, then we would appreciate it if your wallet could give us some consideration through some pledges, and that's through the website at runforsouthlake.ca. Thank you.
Councillor Crone.
With thanks, Madam Mayor, I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Persechini.
Yeah, good morning, Madam Mayor. I went to the EG Minor Hockey Appreciation with Scott Crone was there too, if I remember, and also Terry was also there, and Madam Mayor was there, so he forgot about that. But anyway, so I wanted to say that. And I did an exciting thing. I went to the Park and Recreation Ontario Conference Gala on Blue Mountain. Wow, that was a great evening. We got some plaques and some awards. It felt like we were at the Academy Awards. We went up the stage a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. It was great. It was a great time, and lots of nice people. I met a lot of nice people. Some I knew, some I didn't know. But it was a great event, and thanks for making me part of that, Aaron. And that's it for now, and I will talk about the plaques later on. My report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Cabin Fever events on this past weekend, and I think it was very well attended. At least when I was there, I saw a few people that I recognized right off the bat. And I also had a meeting with the present chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, who is very, very excited about the new, coming with the new year. So we had a very good conversation, about an hour and a half, and we've come up with some great focus ideas on where we might be focusing for the next, at least the next year. So that's a great thing. And I'm going to take a leaf out of Councillor Roy-DiClemente's book and go forward instead of backwards. And I will be attending the Anglican Church spaghetti dinner, which is tonight, for anyone that would like to attend. It's always a good one, actually. And tomorrow morning, the Hall Landing Lions Club have their senior breakfast, and they're telling me that it's open to anyone. You don't necessarily have to be a senior. So anyone that is sort of borderline, you're all welcome to be there. And they always put out a good breakfast. And I will be attending the farewell party for Tom Carrick in the coming few days too. So it's been a very busy time, and moving forward looks like it's going to be even busier.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foster.
I'll consider Councillor Morton's borderline statement, and I'll attend the seniors' breakfast tomorrow too to say hello. Also, just wanted to mention the East Gwillimbury Minor Hockey, their appreciation there. It's good to see that association has remained strong. It's also worth mentioning President Eric Kopsala, I believe, is stepping down as president to a backup role. He's still going to be there to help out whoever needs it, but anybody that can volunteer for 15 years for an association like that, it's very commendable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just piggyback on the volunteer as well. It was really quite an evening, and the number of volunteers that are in that room that make a difference in our youth is truly incredible. The amount of time that they spend coaching and training and working with our young people, the well over 500, they are to be commended because every one of them has young families themselves. So it's a thank you from the municipality to all of those people who are out there. Along with some of the other events that have already taken place, discussed, I attended the Sustainable Housing Dinner hosted by Enbridge. It was a nice evening and talking about how developers can provide more sustainable features in homes, and it seems like they're starting to pick up on it, so it's very good. I attended on behalf of the municipality a vigil held in Bradford to honor the victims of New Zealand mosque attack last month, and I also attended an introductory meeting hosted by York Simcoe MP Scott Davidson. So we have a new MP, and he's interested in being involved in East Gwillimbury, so I'm pleased that he reached out for a meeting, and I think we're going to see quite a bit from him. Upcoming events, April the 4th, 7:30, Friends of the Library are hosting an author reading. I think there's still a few tickets available, and it's always a good evening. April the 8th, we're looking forward to our East Gwillimbury Volunteer Appreciation Evening at the Sports Complex. I understand that we are at capacity with 100 volunteers registered to attend the event, so it's going to be a wonderful evening to celebrate people who make a difference in our community. April the 10th, 5 to 8 o'clock, the town is hosting the second annual community open house. I think last year we had about 500 people, and so we're hoping that there will be as many or maybe even more. It's here at the Civic Center, and it includes a complimentary barbecue. Customer service will be open, and the staff from all our divisions will be here on hand to answer questions, as well as I think there's some community organizations that are going to celebrate with us as well. And last but not least, we were talking about a breakfast on next Wednesday, or this Wednesday, sorry, April the 13th, 8 to 11, North Union Pancake Breakfast is taking place, and Chats will also be hosting their Walk for Wellness. If you can't participate in the walk, I've registered and be happy to have a sponsor from anyone that's going to go, and information can be found on the Chats website. So we're busy. It's a busy, busy time for us, and I think spring's just going to keep us going. So with that, I'm down to deputations, and Mr. Clerk, could you please introduce our deputant?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, your first deputant is R. Hamilton, Director, Crime Stoppers of York Region, making a deputation to committee regarding the work of Crime Stoppers of York Region in the surrounding area.
Good morning. I've been with Crime Stoppers as director. This is my 21st year, and I've seen a lot of changes in the way we work. The Crime Stoppers of York Region is probably the most successful one in the province of Ontario, if not of all Canada. If you have the sheet here about what we have done so far, if you had taken the amount of money that we've paid out in tips and compared it to the amount of drugs and stolen property that we recovered through Crime Stoppers, you'd be amazed. I was clear, another thing is that Crime Stoppers is not part of York Regional Police. We are separate. We work as a partnership with the York Regional Police, the media, and the citizens of York Region. Another thing is, I'm not here to ask for money. We are probably the most successful one in the province. We have a golf tournament in June. We have a mystery theater night in October. The golf tournament, last year we had to turn people away. We had over 250 golfers. We had 2 golf courses. We had Redcrest and Cardinal. We filled both of them, where a lot of organizations have had to cancel their golf tournament because they couldn't get enough people. Another thing is what I'm really here for today is many of the communities in York Region are declaring January as Crime Stopper Month, and that's why I'm here. I'm asking the town of East Gwillimbury to declare January as Crime Stopper Month. Now, we have won several awards, not only across Canada, but many international awards for programs we put on. This year, I've been invited to 3 international meetings. The first one is in Windsor, second one is Phoenix, Arizona, and the third one is in Singapore. Now, I don't know if I can get to all of them, but I've been asking. I've been the longest member of Crime Stoppers in the area. So, like I say, that's what I'm here for, is to ask the town to be a sponsor, or to be a Crime Stopper community. I'd be awfully proud to be able to stand up in front of the International Congress and say that my hometown is a supporter of Crime Stoppers. So I'll leave it up to you. Now, if there's any questions, I can.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Go ahead.
I just want to congratulate on your work that you do, and all your, people involved in the Crime Stopper. It takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of good volunteers. So, congratulations, and I hope that you stay on for many years as you can, because you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Everyone at Crime Stoppers, there's 10 of us on the board of directors. Everyone has a job. Mine is with the seniors and the Mystery Theater Night. That's what I do. And a couple of years ago, we did a Seniors Academy at the sports complex. That was the largest one ever done. It landed we did 3 weeks, and everyone that attended the first one was right there till the third one. Then we hope to do another one in another year, but it was the most successful one anywhere, and it's all of it in East Gwillimbury. Any other questions I could answer?
I just want to thank you very much, Roy. You are a face in our community everywhere we go, and I'm sure that the success of Crime Stoppers is because of the commitment that you have had for 21 years. It really has made a difference. I know that when you take on a job, you take on it full tilt, and it shows with Crime Stoppers in our community. So you've asked about us declaring us as a community for Crime Stoppers, and we would deal with that at the end of our agenda, or perhaps at our council meeting later on today. It wouldn't be right now, but we want to thank you very, very much for all that you do, and I'm sure we'll have some discussion about that as well. Normally, we do not declare weeks or months or whatever. We're one of the communities that doesn't fly flags for any particular cause. So this would deviate a little bit, but it's certainly worth some discussion. We have new people on council, and perhaps there's a change of thought with that as well. So we certainly will get back to you, and we've made a note that what you have asked for.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Persechini. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
Thank you.
We're at item E for presentations, and Mr. Clerk, could you introduce our presentation, please?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I think it's we have 3 town staff, Michelle Collette, Chris McPherson, and Neil Proudfoot, that are representing the town's Health and Safety Committee, and they're making a presentation to committee, providing an update on the town of East Gwillimbury's health and safety program.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council and staff and guests. Very pleased this morning to introduce our EG Health and Safety Committee. We have Neil Proudfoot here and Chris McPherson, and they are the co-chairs of the committee and make sure that we are EG safe every day here in the workplace. So I'll be pleased to have them make a presentation to you this morning.
Thank you. Welcome. Good to have you in front of us today.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here and appreciate you giving us the time to present on this. So just a brief overview. This is the members of our committee. What's not shown here is there's actually, I guess, 3 committees that are throughout our organization. We have the Health and Safety Committee for our Civic Center and arena workers, but there's also a Health and Safety Committee for our emergency services as well as our library board, and we do have their participation in our meetings, usually by one representative from each of their boards. So it is a great initiative, and we have a great representation from all over the organization.
Okay, we'll just start off by giving you a brief update on our 2018 accomplishments, or some of them. As part of the MOL, or Ministry of Labor Ergonomics Initiative, we developed our ergonomics policy and program. That's currently in front of the senior management team for review. The committee reviewed and updated our workplace violence policy. We conducted a review of and updated our restricted view procedure. This procedure addresses operating vehicles or equipment when you don't have a full path, a full view of the intended path of travel. And over the past couple of years, there's been multiple companies, including municipalities, that have been fined large sums of money due to injuries related to this issue. We provided propane training to our roads and water employees, trained staff on the new WMIS 2015 regulations. We provided clandestine lab hazard awareness training to our frontline employees, so anyone who's going out into someone's home, picking up garbage outside, doing site visits, they can encounter these things. So it was just a quick, this is what to look for, call your supervisor and contact police. We moved our workplace inspections off paper and onto our citywide work order program to allow for better tracking of our deficiencies and responses from management. We provided access to the Twinrix vaccine for any staff with potential exposure to hepatitis A and B through the course of their job. And the defibrillator at the ops yard was locked after hours, so anyone working nights or weekends did not have access. We've ensured that from now on they have 24 access to that defibrillator. A little update on our ergonomics program. We began conducting office and vehicle ergonomic assessments in 2018. These will continue through 2019, hopefully with everyone completed by September. We're only going to be purchasing equipment for high-risk workstations or for employees that have injury. Any other purchases will be deferred till 2020 so they can be properly budgeted for. Other than training staff on the policy and program, we'll be training everyone on musculoskeletal disorder awareness training, as well as manual material handling training. And the Health and Safety Committee, as well as supervisors, will receive additional training on MSD hazard identification, how to implement effective controls, how to incorporate it into our workplace inspections, and how to incorporate it into our accident investigations.
On top of our ergonomics training that we're going to be doing, there are some other initiatives that we've undertaken. The first one listed here is first aid training. We actually had our first training session last Thursday and Friday. It was well attended. And we also have 2 more training sessions that are coming up for staff on April 8th to 9th and the 15th to 16th. Our goal is to make sure that basically there isn't a spot within this building that doesn't have someone who's first aid trained. So that we're really excited about that initiative. We're also going to be having some mandatory health and safety training awareness. We usually have a week that's dedicated every year to sort of bringing more awareness to that, and we'll certainly continue with that this year. We've also purchased an SDS management system. That's our safety data sheets. And what that's going to allow is staff to ensure that they're complying with the safety regulations for any materials that they're handling. It'll save our supervisors time and resources so they don't have to constantly be going out, inspecting the chemicals that they're working with and updating the sheet. The electronic system will allow them to do that much more quickly. They'll also allow for 24-hour remote access. So if any of our workers are out on a scene doing an emergency call and they come across something, they'll know how to handle with care. We're going to unroll a training relating to workplace violence. We're also going to be conducting risk assessments. So we're going to be sitting down with each department to sort of say where are your risks, both internal and external, and how do we mitigate or eliminate those risks. And we'll also, in conjunction with that, be doing some de-escalation training. So that's sort of when you have an individual who's not too happy with you, how do you sort of talk them down and get them back to having a conversation rather than a shouting match. And so we're looking forward to that. Don't think we've had too many encounters with that, but it's always best to be prepared. And finally, we're going to continue to identify training requirements and develop a training matrix so that going forward we can identify quickly and adequately what are the needs for our employees and how do we make sure that they have those training requirements in place. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Wow, well done.
Well, we have one.
You have one. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is wonderful. You guys have so many different initiatives on the go, and keeping the health and well-being of our employees is so very important. I like the first aid training. I've seen recently a lot of companies are taking mental health first aid training, and I'm wondering if you can add that to your plan maybe for the next go-round, because I think those courses, I think it's a 2-day course. I can see that being more and more important in the workplace. The other thing, the workplace de-escalation. There's also another course that I've heard is very good through Stitfeld Handy called Difficult Conversations that also helps with that, and that's a 3-day course. So there's lots of good things out there, and I'm really happy with what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, folks. I feel safer already. Excellent work. One of the questions I have, where I used to work, we had talking about dangerous situations where someone that comes in off the street that's not too happy with something that's happened. We had a similar situation where I used to work, but we had a code. So we would have an announcement over the loudspeaker, code 101, and people would run to the reception area and provide assistance if necessary. Do we have a similar situation here?
So our emergency procedures are currently under review and being updated by our manager of facilities. So that is something that is in that document, and when it's completed, we'll train staff on it.
I don't know about anybody else that's sitting up here, but my first aid is probably expired. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to partake in it. Many times we're out at events and facilities and something does happen and they look at elected officials as being able to take charge. It's fine to take charge if you've got the training, but I can tell you I'm one that I have not kept it up. So the first aid, CPR, whatever, if it can be included, at least to ask if some people, I'm sure that some have it up to date, but I'm the first one to say that mine is not. The conflict resolution and the risk assessment, I think, is very, very timely. Some people here know that I ran into a situation, not in this building, but in another building a week or two ago, and it's made me much more aware and alert that we need to make sure that we all, including us again, are trained in this, in situations that come up. It's unfortunate that times have changed, but they have. And I would ask again if it's appropriate that both the conflict resolution and the risk assessment programs could be a part of what takes place. If it's not conducive to doing it with staff, then perhaps the health and safety could work along with our office to provide this as a training program for all of us. So. Thank you. You're doing a wonderful job. I see you around the facilities all the time. For those that don't know, that these two people take this job very seriously, as they should, and they are on top of it on a regular basis throughout our facilities, and I've seen that firsthand. So thank you for all the good work that you do, keeping us safe, and we're looking forward to continuing that same program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to receive. Sorry, I have another
Well, I was
question
just
here.
going- No, it wasn't necessarily a question. It was simply just the motion to receive and with the direction to staff that where it's appropriate that council be included in the training opportunities, I think. For me, yeah, I mean, for me, I think the first line in my job description as councillor is de-escalation. So I think we would all benefit from that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Okay. We are now at item F, and that's Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services with Councillor Carruthers in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's nothing on the agenda today. Mr. Molinari, did you have anything to add?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, any questions or comments in this area? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item G is Development Services with Councillor Crone in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item on the agenda today. It is Planning Branch Report, Oak Ridge's Moraine Site Plan Application by Norma and Trevor Rose, 17569 Center Street, part of Lot 1, Concession 8. Could I ask General Manager Ramuno, do you have any comments on this?
Certainly to you, Mr. Chair. So this report speaks to the site plan application with a recommendation of approval for the farm-themed playground for children. There was a tent structure that was constructed last year. Council last year, I believe it was June 2018, approved a temporary use bylaw for this specific use, and one of the conditions was that a site plan application also be approved by council and the appropriate agreement executed within an 18-month period. So this is simply implementing that earlier recommendation of council.
Thank you. Can I have a mover for this report, please? Moved by Councillor Morton. Okay. And are there any questions from committee? Mayor Hackson.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff. This is for a use of a temporary facility, and I'm wondering what needs to be changed or how can it be changed that this doesn't come back year after year, that it becomes something of a permanent nature. I don't know if that's been discussed or not, but just wondering.
Certainly, through the chair. It's something that I've been considering as well. The temporary use bylaw is valid for a 3-year period. We received some information from the applicant that's in the report that it has been a successful themed playground for children. On average, this past summer, they've had well over 600 people attend the site each weekend. I think I'll continue to work with the applicant to evaluate how the expanded use on a property is working over the coming year, and I think we can then consider it a future report to council on our options, whether it is to legalize the use once and for all, or to continue with the extension of a temporary use. But I will endeavor to work with the applicant and continue to evaluate the site as we move forward.
Thank you very much. I look forward to that final report. Thank you.
Councillor Morton, you have a question?
I do, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Romano. I have followed this ever since the playground was installed where it is. Although I haven't played in the playground myself, my grandchildren have. And I have attended the Rose Family Farm for a number of years, and I do know that one of them does get a little ahead of themselves in jumping into things and getting stuff done. But the reality is, we're encouraging businesses to come into East Gwillimbury. And we're asking for more and more all the time to help not only our municipality, but certainly to support the items that residents are requiring us to do. So I'm a little confused as to why we still want to making this temporary over the years? Why can we not just decide that we're going to allow this on this property, and it will improve the business end of it, and it will certainly entice more people to come to our area. So, and I know that the Oak Ridges Moraine countryside, that's an area of it, but things are changing over the years, and I think that we really need to consider, staff needs to consider, and council does as well, is us moving ahead on this and making it what it should be.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, I think the next step is implementing the site plan approval, but if council leaves this with me, and I'll continue to work with the applicant, and at a future date provide a additional report to council to see what can be done. My reading of the Oak Ridges Moraine Act does permit these type of agritourism uses. Again, last year the recommendation was to deal with the temporary use at that stage, but again, I've heard council, and I will endeavor to provide a report at a future date for council's consideration.
Councillor Roy-DiClemente, you had a question?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. I am satisfied to leave the temporary use zoning in place. This property has a history of I think, as Councillor Morton said, being anticipatory in some of their activities, and I think if we have a temporary use zoning bylaw, that allows us to continue to have a look at this property, to have a look at lot coverage. My understanding was that the Oak Ridges Moraine legislation was actually quite restrictive, and there are restrictions on how many square feet of structures you can have on the property and so on. And so for me, I understand that this is a community asset and we want to encourage businesses, but we also want to encourage businesses to follow the rules. And it's an indoor play structure it's an indoor playground, basically. And so one might argue that while it has a farm theme, it could be agritourism. On the other side of the coin, you can also argue that it is simply an indoor playground and that it is better suited to be located elsewhere on lands that are zoned in a different fashion. So for me, I'm fine to leave it as a temporary use under the bylaw so that we can continue to monitor and to a certain extent support this business, as we do know that it is providing a much needed service to the community. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Just a question from me, Mr. Ramuno. Per Councillor Roy-DiClemente's assertion there that having the temporary site plan agreement, if we were to go ahead and make it permanent, is there anything that would stop us from the future to go in and inspect to make sure that the playground structure is safe?
To you, Mr. Chair. Once we have a site plan agreement executed, we will have the parameters in place with respect to the structures that have been approved by council and identified on site, number of parking spaces, and the type of operation sort of embedded in an agreement registered on title. So the owner would be obligated to, follow the letter of the law under that site plan agreement. So that's something that, once it's codified, they'll have to, the owner will have to respect. But again, I will, I've heard the comments, and I think this probably warrants a future report, considering it's a temporary use bylaw. Notwithstanding that, in June 2021, the existing bylaw will expire, so that will automatically require additional report and consideration by council. If it's not dealt with before then, they consider an extension to temporary use, or perhaps to legalize it if that's the direction we choose at that time.
Okay, thank you. I know if I were to put myself in the boots of the entrepreneur. I'm not sure I would enjoy having a temporary order over my head all the time. I'd like to see some permanency if I was in their shoes. Anyway, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, can I call for a vote? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Mr. Ramuno, do you have any other comments that you'd like to share with committee?
To you, Mr. Chair, no, none at this time.
Okay. Are there any other questions from committee to the chair, to the general manager? No, seeing none, I will pass it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under item H with legal and council support services with Councillor Foster in the chair.
Madam Mayor, we have none at this time. General Manager Horner, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
I'll turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item I is administration with myself in the chair, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Webster this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one report today, and I'll ask Michelle Collette, our Director of Human Resources, to speak to elements of it. As I introduce it, it's very important that just recently our council adopted the Diversity and Inclusion Charter, and we have already, pursuant to council direction, we've already taken some action and steps to put it in place, even more so in this organization and community. One of the things that's important to note is at our April 10th community open house, I believe we're going to do a signing, a ceremonial signing that will allow council and senior staff and members of the community to be part of the charter signing. And so that's planned. I will now turn it over to Michelle Collette, and she will update the action plan that we have in place and that we will continue to develop and deliver.
Good morning. Thank you, CAO Webster. Good morning, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. Yes, we are very excited and that we do have our charter endorsed on March 5th. And the memo that you have before you that was on the agenda outlines some of the work that we've done to date and we want to share with you. So we have sent out a communication to staff, so staff are well aware and excited about this opportunity that it brings to both our workplace community and our community. And I've actually received some responses from our staff indicating that, so that was very nice to hear from them and hear that they're very thrilled in the direction that we're going. So that's a good news story. With respect to communications, we will work with our awesome communications team, and we're going to be creating some information on our intranet and make sure we keep all this information alive and well as we move forward with our initiatives. So that's something that you'll see in the future, and that'll be on MyEG, the intranet site. As our CAO mentioned, we will have the official opening coming up next week on April 10th, and we will be inviting folks from our community to come and celebrate in this event. So you'll be seeing those folks here, and that'll be a very exciting day, and we're looking forward to that. As well, we will ensure that our Inclusion and Diversity Charter is part of our new strategic plan, and we are quite thrilled that we will be creating a Culture and Diversity Advisory Committee, and I understand from our clerk that we've had a great uptake so far with folks that are interested, so that'll be very exciting, and I would look forward to be participating on that committee as we move forward, so that's some really good news there. We will be ensuring that our staff are well aware about this initiative and the work that needs to be involved in their commitment, especially our senior management team and EMT. We've actually had a training session at our last EMT. We had an individual from our EAP program, and he conducted what I'll call the beginnings of discussion about what is diversity, how you as a leader need to think about this. So we are beginning the learning and development in this area. We will continue doing that with all our staff, and we're working behind the scenes to look at who would be the best facilitator to come in and share this great information with our staff. So there's lots of work that's happening in that learning and development piece. As well, I will continue working with our municipal and diversity group that is part of our whole stakeholder plan, and I will bring the news and the developments that we have with that group forward to council to keep you apprised. And we will continue to look at future resources and opportunities as outlined in the report. There is a Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, and I'm presently looking at how we can join that group and become members to make sure we stay in tune with this very important initiative. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you so much for this report. Signing the charter is easy. The work that goes with it is a little more difficult and time-consuming. So I really appreciate you laying out for us what you'll be doing. If you're looking for trainers, I have a lot of good suggestions. So we can talk later about that. We've used those many times in both of my other jobs. The Municipal Diversity and Inclusion Group, who is that?
That is the stakeholder group that forms the municipalities, the school boards, the hospitals. There's about 22 different groups that are part of that group, yes.
Excellent. Okay.
I can send you more information if you like, Councillor.
That would be wonderful. And then the other thing I thought of as I was reading your report is we need to look at a way for people to be able to report any places that they don't feel included, and the ability to do that anonymously so it's not shining a spotlight on someone. I'm wondering if we can use the intranet because to start with at least, so that it is staff that are feeling comfortable, and the ability to report anything that might be making them feel uncomfortable so that it can be dealt with in a respectful, anonymous way. So that's just something I throw back at you to take a look at going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good suggestions. I too have a name of someone who is aware of what we're doing and has suggested that they would be a part of it. It's from York Regional Police and Sergeant Ricky Verabhan, who has indicated that he'd be very pleased to be here. He's worked with other communities that have gone this route and been very successful, and I know he's worked with most of the municipalities, and he's local. Thank you very much. With that, could I have a motion to receive? Councillor Crone, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Very exciting. Mr. Webster, do we have anything else under administration at this time?
At this time, I would just ask General Manager Molinari, I believe that we have landed on a date for the York Region staff to do an update on the Upper York project, and as well we have the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority CAO and his senior team invited to another session as well. And the date for the Upper York, Mr. Molinari?
I believe that would be May 7.
Is that a council day? Okay, I didn't know if it was workshop or council. I just wanted to make sure that we were live streaming it as well and people would know well in advance. That's great. And the other one? Not yet?
The other, Mike Walters and his senior team are confirmed for April 16th.
April 16th. We look forward to both of those. They're very important to the community, and updates. It seems so fluid that you miss a week or two with some news, then you're behind. So this is wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other items from committee under administration? Yes.
One other, and I don't know if Mr. Ramuno, I would just like to provide an update on the LSRCA LPAD appeal. It's a positive update. As you recall, one of our final elements of trying to achieve settlement was to also include York Region, and there's been some very positive discussions. I know that Mr. Ramuno and Mark Velchich have been at the helm for this in our discussions, assisted by other staff as well. There are going to be some outreach to some of the residents that saw party status, and we're hopeful of bringing back a fulsome update to our next meeting of committee in public session of where we're at, and to really walk through sort of the template of what we hope is a solution that achieves what council directed, which was to not place another layer of green when there were already effective environmental protection layers in place. So we'll bring that forward, and if there's any questions, you could direct them to Mr. Ramuno or Mr. Velchich.
Thank you. Look forward to that. Do we have an idea when it might come forward to us?
To you, Madam Mayor, we're thinking, if not, probably early in May, if not the last meeting in April. We'll have a report to council. And over the next week or two, we will be reaching out to the interested party residents who attended the original tribunal hearing.
I know that even those that were not involved with the tribunal, a lot of residents have been watching this, so I'm just mindful of our live streaming, that if we can put the date down so people would know that there was an opportunity to either come out or at least to watch it, would be very helpful. Thank you very much. Thanks to staff. I know you've worked really hard on this one. It's been a tough one all the way through. Councillor Crone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just building upon your comment there, I would encourage, this is such an important issue, the LPAT zoning bylaw review. I would suggest that we also put an announcement out on social media on our town Facebook page. I think that would be very helpful, as a lot of people follow it. We need to get the word out on this. I think communication's key on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion to receive. Councillor Persechini, all those in favor? That's carried. And I will now move to item J, and that's Emergency and Community Safety Services with Councillor Roy-DiClemente in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one prepared item on our agenda. It's a report on a new idling control bylaw. Chief, would you care to set this up for us?
With thanks through the chair, this report, as mentioned, provides something that hitherto now hadn't existed. Pleased to have the Manager, Bylaws Enforcement Services, Jennifer Nichols, here to answer any specific questions you may have.
Good morning, Ms. Nichols. Anything you'd like to start off with before I open the floor for questions?
And staff. Just before you is a report in regards to a proposed new idling control bylaw. We have received a few complaints in regards to the idling. Currently, the only tools that we do have is under our noise control bylaw, and with that we don't have set fines, which is those immediate fines, in order to address those concerns. So this bylaw is one that deals specifically with idling, and the hope is to provide municipal law enforcement officers the tools to regulate excessive noise in the community.
Thank you. Members of committee, would anyone like to make the motion? Councillor Morton, are you making that motion? Okay, and then you would like to make a comment. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. How are these complaints going to be coming in, and how are we going to handle the fines that need to go out?
So first off, the Regional Chief Justice approves all our fines, so that would need to receive approval from them. I have done an environmental scan of what area municipalities are charging for these fines. So obviously it will be a large educational piece with the community to advise them of the idling, the new idling bylaw, and through the media, social media, and through our website, we'll be doing that, as well as out in the community with our officers.
Just in addition to that, I know it's difficult for our officers now that have to go out and do ticketing and everything else. Is this something that we're going to be considering in adding additional individuals that will be out there in lots of time that this can take place? Or, I mean, I know it's going to be a difficult situation for the staffing that we have right at the moment, so they can't be everywhere at one time.
Yeah, a lot of our, we try to be out there proactively. It could be a matter of just going through the Costco parking lot when we're out proactively enforcing the fire routes and handicap spots. If we see someone standing there with, sitting there with the idling, we can provide a pamphlet, that sort of thing. Obviously, we'll start with an educational piece before we start laying down with charges.
I think, Councillor Morton, I think the reality is that enforcement will be a challenge, but this is the right thing to do. And at the moment, when we do have someone who's offending, our staff don't have anything to be able to address it if they happen to come upon it. And I think that's really what it comes down to is in the course of their duties, they're out and about, they see it, they don't have anything to be able to do anything about it. Ms. Nichols or Chief, anything to add?
Through the chair, no, that's covered adequately. For most of our daily operations, it is complaint-based. It is reactive. There is consideration for resources, and that will come at the appropriate time, of course. But the most important thing is that it provides our current resources with the tools when they do see something to be able to handle it at this time. So it is a step in the right direction.
Councillor Persechini.
Yes, thank you. This is kind of a little bit hard because the buses, school buses, they need to have warmed up. It's diesels, and it's a kind of touchy situation. How we're going to handle that? Usually I go off for a walk or jog in the morning. There's a bus I see constantly. They're running for maybe until they get going, and I'm sure that there's a reason why behind it. And I think that's going to be a little bit difficult to see. Are they doing it because it's a diesel or whatever? So that's a little bit something to think about, So it's a touchy situation because they need to have it warmed up for the kids, and sometimes they run it for 20 minutes or 10 minutes. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but anyway, maybe you can answer that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Nichols.
Through the chair. We do have a section pertaining to exemptions within the bylaw, and part of those exemptions are the transit vehicles and those transporting patrons what we also do also address is the outside temperature. If it's over 27 degrees, there's an exemption, as well as under 5 degrees for similar to what you're saying about the warming up of the vehicles. So we do provide that within the bylaw.
Councillor Carruthers.
Thank you. When I got this report, I was surprised we didn't already have an idling bylaw, so I think this is long overdue. I would suggest, though, that what you've just stated is what I highlighted in here about the length of time idling, 5 minutes, and the temperature. That was very common in bylaws that were written many years ago. But since then, cars have changed, and with the exemptions, as Councillor Persechini has said, diesel vehicles are different. But most of our vehicles, they only need to idle for 30 minutes to get them 30 seconds to get them warmed up on the coldest of days, and it's actually not healthy for your vehicle to be idling longer than that. So I disagree with the 27 degrees and the less than 5 degrees. I think that we should be a little bit more proactive in this time of climate change to make sure that we have the most current type of bylaw. Toronto has a 1 minute idling. So I think that's something we can look at. I think Simcoe County's around there as well. So when we're looking at our neighboring municipalities, let's not look at bylaws that were put in place 10 years ago. Let's look at what the most current thinking is when it comes to idling. And there's a lot of resources online that we could be looking at to get the most up to date. So if we're going to make a bylaw, let's make a current bylaw. So that's my one comment. My other comment was, in the report it says there are currently no set fines established to assist the town's municipal law enforcement officers making enforcement challenging. That sort of, I was wondering, is that applying to the noise bylaw? Because we were just talking, the report talking about the noise bylaw, and then it goes on to say there's no set fine. So There's no set signs for the noise bylaw? Or do
For
you mean-
specific, yeah, to the noise, there are some limited set fines available through our noise bylaw.
Okay.
And this proposed bylaw would have set fines specific to this bylaw that would allow us the tools to effectively enforce that.
Excellent. I do think we do need that. And some people are more able to pay fines than others. So I would highly suggest an escalating fine structure for repeat offenders. You know, some people, $100 ticket is enough to change their behavior. Other people would need repeated and escalating tickets. But I think more importantly than the fines is the public education piece that goes along with it. And there's a lot of great resources already out there. I know the Government of Canada has a Build Your Own Idling campaign on their website. It's called Idle Free Zone. And it gives you stuff that you can just stick your logo right on, all kinds of materials there. And I think that's where we need to start. If we enforce a bylaw that nobody knows anything about, I feel that's a little bit unfair. People should know not to idle, but not necessarily. So let's make sure we have a great campaign out there to get people to stop idling. Most people, that will be enough. And so hopefully we won't have to do as much enforcement. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. I think that's part of this process that we've put together now, is to put that draft bylaw out there to get feedback. And we know bylaw staff are really good at doing some of that public education. They did that with our parking bylaw, and I think, I think that will be helpful as they move forward. One of my favorite signs is the one that's stuck on the outside of Sharon Public School. It says, young lungs at work, or something to that effect, and it's very effective. Chief, you indicated that you wanted to comment.
Through the chair, with thanks for the comments from the councillor noted, and these and others that are forwarded, we'll be incorporating for the May 7th report back to council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crone.
Thank you for, Madam Chair, for this. And I applaud staff for putting this together. I don't think there's a greater threat today than climate change. And we have to take, like Councillor Carruthers, I was surprised that we didn't have an idling bylaw. And, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, they're greenhouse gases. We have to deal with it. My comments are, I think, with many of our bylaws, regardless of which department they come from, they can at times be subject to abuse. And I hope we can do a thorough public education campaign on this, because I would hate for some citizens to try and turn it on the folks that are abiding by the spirit of the bylaw. And I'm thinking of primarily, first off, top of my head, is farmers. They have diesel tractors, they need to idle. And as our urban sprawl encroaches on farmland, sometimes you have the conflict of the two solitudes. But the other comment, and I think we need to be rock solid firm on this, is that everyone driving, as town staff, driving a vehicle with the Town of East Gwillimbury logo on it, we darn well better adhere to this idling bylaw. And I think if we find our own not leading by example, then I think they need to have some serious conversations with their management. Anyway, that's my 2 bits. Thank you again for putting this together.
Thank you, Councillor Crone. Councillor Persechini?
Just a thought, maybe, if to be fair to the community, is when you bring something new into the area, if it would be wise, I just consider it, to give them a warning. You have 30, like within, it's a trial thing for the first 30 days, so we kick it off, and then give them a ticket with a warning. This is the month we're making awareness, and if as effective such and such and such a date, there's no more. You're just going to get a ticket, and that's it. Just thought something to consider, because we're bringing something out. It's all new. And education is going to take quite a while to get it through their head. But if we do an announcement for a month, and consider the community there. We don't want to have all our lines busy with the complaints. Oh, I didn't know anything about it, or whatever. It wasn't publicized enough. I just thought maybe it'd be wise, just a thought, and then the rest of the committees could, think about it. Just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Persechini. I think it's funny because at least 3 of us didn't realize we didn't have one of these already. So I would expect that the members of the public would also feel similarly. Councillor Foster, you had your hand up.
Not to muddy the waters, but I had a great conversation the other day about this, and something was brought up that keeps popping into my mind. Although this council is, let's say, dedicated to economic development, and now we're talking about education, I wonder if there should be something that we can educate the public about drive-throughs. We love our drive-throughs, and I think there are a pile of vehicles sitting there idling for a long, long time in a drive-through. I'm not sure what the answer is. It keeps coming back to me. So maybe if there's something out there with an educational piece to it, that should be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Councillor Foster. I see Ms. Nichols taking notes. Anything further? I didn't expect we'd have that much discussion. Chief, did you have something to add?
Definitely not. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Councillor Morton as presented. Anything further? Seeing nothing further, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. That's the only item we had on our prepared agenda. Chief, one more chance to have the mic. Members of committee, anything to raise? Seeing none, I'll turn the chair back to you.
Thank you very much. We're under item K, Corporate Services, with Councillor Morton in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We only have one item under corporate services today. Mr. Velchitz, are you speaking to this, or Mr. Marshall?
Madam Chair, I'll make a few comments, and if there are questions, certainly Mr. Marshall or Ms. Brown are here as well to answer questions. But I did want to make a few comments. You've been provided today, you'll see this rather large document entitled Draft 2019 Development Charge Background Study. I do want to point out that this is, although you're getting it today in paper copy, it was released over a week ago electronically to the public to enable us to meet statutory timelines to seek council approval prior to the June 1st adoption, or a date that we would like it to be in effect. And I also want to just make a couple of comments. This is a major milestone point in a development charge process. Normally, at this point, a consultant would have been hired. We would have invested high six-figure amounts on the consultant's time to get to this point, and then there would be the official public process culminating in, ideally, council approval. This process has been led by our Manager of Development Finance, Carolyn Brown, and our Director, Warren Marshall, with really support from the extended management team and all the various studies and master plans and so on that are either completed or underway that have fed into this. So very much a team effort led by our key finance staff. And although this is a large document, and certainly we encourage you to provide us with any questions you might have. We will be doing a presentation, Mr. Marshall and Ms. Brown will be doing a presentation at the next meeting to try and put this large document into perspective, and that will also be open to the public. So if there's any input from the public, certainly it'll be welcome. I do want to point out, I think it's important to reiterate that although this is the official launch of the publicizing of this document, this is the culmination of several months of work that's been done with our team and with a working group from the development industry. And so there's certainly been a lot of collaboration to this point. They've also had 2 different industry consultants that specialize in this sort of work that have been working and asking us lots of questions and providing lots of perspective that's enabled us to get to this point. So a really good job by staff getting to this stage, and we look forward to the presentation a couple of weeks from now and ultimately putting in place the new bylaw before June. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Velchitz. Can I get a motion? Councillor Crone. Any questions for Mr. Velchich on this report? Hearing none. All in favor? Motion's carried. Mr. Velchich, do you have anything further to bring forward?
Only, Madam Chair, to mention to you that with respect to our annual business plan and budget, that document, now that it's been approved by council, is in the final stages of being assembled, and you should see that distributed to you sometime this week.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions from council, I'll turn the chair back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're under item L, and that's Community Parks, Recreation, and Culture with Councillor Persechini in the chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two items. Before I go to my two items, I'd like to just brag about our attendance at the Parks and Recreation Ontario Conference Gala dinner on Blue Mountain in Collingwood on Thursday, March the 28th, where the town of East Gwillimbury received the 2 awards of excellence for the Nakita Trails Constructions and Operating Trails and Development Award for the 2018 Parks and Forestry Challenge. Along with me, there was General Manager Carmason, Grant, Frank, and Rhonda. It was a great evening, and we were so proud, and hope the committees and who worked very hard on this and staff, I want to thank you for doing a great job. Now I'll go into my reports. Okay. Report numbers CPRC 2019-12. Taste out, it's not the Taste of the Danforth, the Taste of East Gwillimbury International Food and Craft Beer Festival. You have it in front of you from page 25 to 28. General Manager Carmason, do you have any comments on this matter?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. This is an update related to the sponsorship procurement for this festival, Tapestry of Taste. And we're also requesting from Council some specific event planning requirements in an effort to move forward with this exciting festival. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to the report.
Thank you very much. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Crone. As moved by Councillor Crone. Any questions, members of committees? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, one of the clauses recommends that we waive the parking restrictions for our parking bylaw for the entire community of East Gwillimbury. I thought it might be better for us to simply suggest that we deal with the community of Sharon. I don't see any reason for us not to be enforcing our parking bylaw restrictions in other areas of the municipality just because we're having a party in Sharon.
So be noted. Any other questions from the members of the committees? Councillor Morton.
I do agree with Tara's comment about that, because you would get them parking all over East Gwillimbury if we just lifted it for the weekend. I was looking at the budgeted expenses here, and I just wondered if the cost of the security, I know that you have to have YRP here due to the Liquor Act, and but I'm just wondering if if staff have investigated the cost of actually going to a security company rather than just using the police, because I know the difference in the price per officers are astronomical.
Councillor, Manager Carmason, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff have reached out to York Regional Police, and we have consulted with them with regards to the event requirements, in particular with their core officers that could be assigned to the event, as well as paid duty police, and over and above that, private security also brought in to offset some of the security requirements. So staff has undertaken that at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions, members of the committee? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you. Given that this is the first time we're having this event, and we've got some questions, I think, as far as how things are going to go. I know that the Temple Board was as their liaison, they were really excited about the opportunity to participate, but we're also concerned about damage to the grounds and so on. And so I think it may be appropriate, with Councillor Crone's permission, since it's his motion, that staff be directed to prepare a follow-up report to wrap up the event and make recommendations for future events to us.
That was good suggestion. We'll make a note. Any other comments? Madam Mayor?
Thank you very much. I know that it's going to be busy, and we're thinking about using our sports complex parking as well as anywhere else we're going to be able to put cars. And I'm wondering if perhaps a letter from, I guess it would be maybe a request from council or perhaps staff to York Region Transit to see if we can have some buses that they would use for transporting people back and forth. It would maybe stop some of the congestion here, but it may even be if we're able to use Sharon Public School. It's got some parking as well, that trying to keep the congestion away from our four corners as much as possible, and to include in the letter that we would hope that they would be a sponsor by giving these buses, I think would be helpful.
These are all good suggestions. If you noted that, General Manager. If there's any more questions here, Councillor Crone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a question. I understood the committee had to do some fundraising of their own. They were going to secure some sponsorships. Do we have any sense of how they've been making out with that endeavor?
General Manager Comison?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as per the report, we have secured the necessary sponsorship with our corporate partners and community partners to cover our costs for the event, and then we also have factored in some additional potential revenue sources that we would draw upon at the event, including gate as well as a portion of the vendors' fees.
Any other questions, members of the committee? See, there's no more question. Can we have a vote? All in favor? Sorry, Mr. Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe I heard a couple friendly amendments. If I'll put that on the screen for council. So I believe the first amendment was adding or replacing East Gwillimbury with the community of Sharon. And then the added clause of council directs staff to report back after the event on the successes and pitfalls of the event.
We also asked about the buses, if it could be used. Could we add that in there? Madam Mayor suggested that. Oh? I'm sorry. Carruthers.
Can we
CC.
Can we change pitfalls to challenges?
Roy-DiClemente.
My verbiage was that I was requesting a follow-up report to council after the event to outline a follow-up report to council to outline the successes and make recommendations for future events.
General Manager,
Which
do you want
basically says if there was something that we needed to change, we don't have to work with use the word pitfalls.
Okay. So that all be noted, and so can I call a vote now? Okay.
And I believe there was also a recommendation or a suggestion that we draft a letter to York Region Transit requesting sponsorship and support for the event.
Thank you very much. These are all good suggestions. Any more changes or amendments to this? Can't see that far, so you guys have to read for me. Is this all okay? All done?
I'm happy to move those amendments.
Great. Councillor Carruthers, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we go on to the next report. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just, a point of procedure. I believe what we voted on was the amendments to the motion, and now we need to vote on the final resolution.
Thank you for setting me straight here.
That's okay.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Now I can go into the next report. Community Parks and Recs Culture Report, CPR C2019-13, Tendering Award for Contract T-19-05, Sport Complex Chiller Replacement. General Manager of Amazon, do you have any comments on this?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just briefly, this is a request for award for Phase 1 of the chiller replacement for the Atlas pad, which is the east side of the sports complex. Phase 2 of the project will be planned for the seasonal maintenance in 2020, next year for the new roads pad. The procurement was conducted through our procurement manager and as per the procurement bylaw, and the project is within the council-approved budget, and the contractor can perform the work within the seasonal shutdown period or seasonal timelines specified in the tender. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to the report.
Thank you. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Crone. And this moved by Councillor Crone. And any questions of member of the committees? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Karmazin, I note that there was only one person who participated in the bid process. Was that a matter of concern, or is it simply just a matter of expertise and specialty?
Thank you. General Manager Karmazin, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, over 9 firms picked up bid documents for this particular project. However, there is specific performance criteria for this specialized scope of work. In particular, the design and construction capabilities of the firm, their past and previous work, and as well the ability to perform the work within some compressed timelines, which is during our seasonal shutdown period. So that may have affected the tender call and the response to the tender call.
Thank you, General Manager Karmazin. Yes, Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
It seems to me that, I just want to confirm then that we were satisfied with the pricing. It seems to me that it does fit within it falls within the budget that we had allocated for the 2 pads, so we may not need more for the next phase, but I just wanted to confirm that staff were satisfied with the price that came in.
Good, thank you. Any other further comments? Can you answer that, Mr. Karmazin?
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff is satisfied. The price for the scope of work is compliant and meets with staff's approval.
Any member of the committee, any more comments or additional stuff? No? Seeing none, I'd like to have a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. General Manager Karmazin, do you have anything to add before we go?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just 2 brief updates to council. As noted earlier, with the presentation of the Parks and Rec Ontario Awards, I would like to recognize the efforts of both Frank Mazzata, our Parks Development and Operations Manager, and Grant McKeach, our Parks Supervisor. I'd ask them to come forward and officially present the awards to council. Frank was instrumental in the design and the construction of the Nokita Trail. And from here, Frank will also be presenting and sharing this award with our Active Transportation and Trails Advisory Committee at their next meeting. Grant McKeach also joins us. Grant is our representative with the York Region Parks and Forestry Challenge, which takes an active role in organizing all York Region municipalities, so all 9 York Region municipalities, as well as with our upper tier municipality with representatives from the region of York. So I'd like to both congratulate Frank and Grant on their efforts and officially present the awards to council.
Well done. Where are these going to be displayed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in the department, we now have a wall
We have lots of those,
is
we?
dedicated to awards.
To be proud. Thank you again to all the staff and to everyone involved. Something to be proud. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, we're right near the end, so another 10 minutes maybe, and we can, we'll do that, and perhaps maybe we can do it outside as opposed to in. We'll see where the best location will be. Very, very exciting. Thank you so much. I know we have a great staff, and when we are recognized provincially, it just reinforces for us how proud we are of the staff that work out there and represent us every day in the community. So thank you very much. Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to also comment that our staff are, I think the expression is that we're hitting above our weight category in that not only are we winning a ton of awards at Parks and Rec and recognition for our municipal best practices and our really awesome projects, but also our staff are recognized as with our library are recognized at this organization. I think they participated or were running at least 4 different sessions during the concurrent sessions for education for other municipal employees. And I know Monica from our library did a presentation with Rhonda Pogue on collaboration between the library and Parks and Rec. So I did want to comment and let committee know that I've attended the process, the program before, and it's a great day. It's a great conference, but our staff are second to none. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we will move to item M, and that is other business. Is there any other business at this time? Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a good conversation with one of our community groups, and they are wondering about recreational cannabis use, and they're hoping that they won't be put in a position where they have to police this upon a complaint with their group. So I guess to go along with that, with a little bit of research, we find that both Markham and Richmond Hill have already passed bylaws regarding that. I do understand that I think it was just 2 weeks ago at council there was something brought before us about a regional initiative with the thought process to keep these bylaws fairly close so it's easier to police. I'm just wondering if, I suppose there's probably already work being done on this, but I'm wondering if I can put this to a motion if you would like, Madam Mayor, but at least to have staff prepare something for us so we can move forward with this, preferably sooner rather than later in my mind. And again, I understand completely where this group is coming from. They shouldn't be expected to have to police this, at least with a bylaw and maybe some signage, at least on town property. At least they have a couple of things to point to if something does come up. I'm not sure if we need a motion to that effect, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Foster. I know that probably all of us have heard this at some point or another over the last few weeks, anticipating yesterday's opening of some stores. I'm wondering, Mr. Webster, we have a workshop coming up. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity, is that enough time for staff to have a look at what's happening in some other municipalities? It's going to be necessary to take a look at our parks, our parking lots, any of our facilities. I don't believe that it's all encompassing to talk about sidewalks and whatever, but we certainly have a lot of property that is public in the town, and the last thing we want is to have some confrontation without any effective regulations in place. I know we can't do it today, but Mr. Webster, could you comment on that, please?
I can, Madam Mayor. I was actually Councillor Foster, the same group. It's the car show folks that are concerned about the venue they hold, and quite frankly, right now with our current requirements and bylaws, we facilitate our own staff to smoke in the back area. There's an area designated for smoking, and I guess in the evening that could be used, or at any time for other type of smoking as well. And there is this regional initiative that's kind of taking a long, thorough look at things. To include it in next week's workshop might be a little quick, to be frank. However, I think we can take a look at some other common sense approaches done in other communities where there's been, similar to South Lake Hospital, those that have gone down to South Lake Hospital, the signage there now is you cannot smoke tobacco, you cannot vape, and you cannot smoke marijuana on hospital grounds. And you know, that's it seems to be pretty effective. People seem to find their way up to the regional road allowance, and for those that find that, and you know, for many years, partaking in the sports complex and seeing young children, figure skaters, and young athletes, both female and male, having to walk by billowing smoke of any kind because it's 10 meters from our door. I think some of these things might be time to take a look at with some policies. So I think we could prioritize a look at it. Enforcement, like the idling bylaw today, this isn't something you get into business to make money on and enforce. I think society starts assisting in enforcing these to a great extent. We've had concerts that are well attended now, our concert series, where in the past we've had people offensively smoking nicotine, and it's caused an upset. But again, without a bylaw to control that, or a signage and mechanism. So we can take a look. We'll have a staff team assigned to it, and maybe try to at least give an update report over the next couple of committee of the wholes, if so directed. Maybe if we could update possibly early May, maybe late April, but we could do our best to try to bring an update in with some solutions to this issue.
I know that we're asking for something fairly quickly. The weather today will be fine, but a month, at the end of April, we're already into April. So I would suggest that, as we're all aware, that there's other municipalities that have been able to wrestle this one months ago, that we may be able to take some of their advice and try to have some continuity between municipalities. It's no different than a lot of other bylaws that we have that people sometimes don't realize, that a road on one side is one municipality and the other side is someone else. So we'll leave it at that. Do you want a motion for this, or are you fine with where we're going?
After council discussion, if there's consensus that for direction, I think it's important enough that there be a motion, and for a recorded direction to staff.
Very good. Councillor Morton.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to comment that the legions within Ontario right now are facing the same issue with patios and properties, and we had a direction come down from Dominion Command that as long as we have it posted and it's been approved by a motion from the committees in the Legion, that we can order them off our property, whether they're members or whether they aren't, and that they have to go, if they're going to be smoking it, they have to go to the side of the road off our properties to do it. And so far, it has worked at Mount Albert, I guess, until they get really angry. But it's one way that they have directed us to put up with this.
Any other comments, Councillor Carruthers?
Thank you. As was stated with the other bylaws, if the report that comes back on this can also talk about a public awareness campaign and signage as well, I think this is something that we'd want to make sure we have signage in place. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Foster, if you'd like to make the motion, then we'll.
So I would like to put that forward, Madam Mayor, that we direct staff to investigate further, put a report together, and bring that back to us as soon as possible. I'm just looking at what the clerk has up here, and that looks fine to me.
Okay, any questions on the motion? Councillor Roy-DiClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to perhaps to the chief, it's my understanding that we're already looking at our smoking bylaw because it's out of date and doesn't reference some of the new technologies. Is that already work that's underway?
Through the chair, yes. And we are working, to be clear, with legal and other departments. And so all of this would culminate together in a joint effort. So we are farther along the path, I think, than we realize. But it's just bringing it over the finish line with some, as is mentioned, some consistency across municipal borders.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Is there any other business at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to item N, and this is an adjournment at 11:32. Moved by Councillor Carruthers. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. I might suggest we're going to do this picture. We'll have a break for a few minutes, and